And I talked to my supervisor at the time in the Ohio Department of Youth Services, and I told her, I said, I don't want to do this work no more, I'm going to quit. And I was like, expecting her to say like, oh, no, don't quit, you can't quit, we need you. You know, that kind of stuff you expect people to say. Like, how you gonna pay your bills, any of that stuff. Her response was, okay, bye. And I was like, oh, you're not gonna like talk me out of this again? So I said it again, like, hey, I'm about to quit. You're not gonna talk me out of this? She's like, no. I was like, okay. She was like, well, if you don't do the job's still gonna go on. But somebody else gonna do the work, and all that change you trying to effectuate and all the hopes and dream that you have, you can kind of kiss it goodbye. And from that, obviously, we know the story, and that I stuck with it. And I applied for the job here in Rhode Island in 2018, and been serving this role ever since.
All right, hello and welcome back to the Partnership Connections podcast. This podcast is centered around child welfare training and educational topics, all with the goal of helping to support those already working in or with an interest in working in child welfare. My name is Stan Brazier, and I'm the project director for the learning partnership between Rhode Island Department of Children, Youth, and Families, or DCYF, and Rhode Island College. Our desire is to bring information from experts on a variety of topics, all at no cost to hardworking professionals and others. Joining me again as co-host is Holly Pacheco from DCYF. Good to see you again, Holly. It's a long time no see.
Hello, good to see you
seen each
as well.
other in like an hour here.
I know, on Zoom though.
Yeah,
now we're face to face.
Now we're in person, real official. All right, so today we're going to talk about juvenile justice and its relationship to the child welfare system. In Rhode Island, juvenile justice falls under the umbrella of the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. A little bit about, why we're here, right? According to the Annie E. Casey Foundation, every year an estimated 195,000 young people are admitted to detention facilities nationwide, and approximately 15,600 are held in detention on any given night. Yet many detained youth pose little or no threat to public safety. They also outline that Black and Native American youth were far more likely to be confined than Asian and Pacific Islander, white, and Hispanic youth. So our guest is going to talk to us about some of what he's seeing in Rhode Island and the work of the Rhode Island Training School, and we'll have an additional guest as well, which we'll introduce in a moment. And this training school, just for those of you that don't know, is the state's juvenile correction facility for both male and female youth. So without further ado, before we introduce him a little bit about our guest, Larome Myrick. Larome is the Executive Director of Juvenile Justice for the state of Rhode Island, where he provides visionary leadership and oversight for the entire system, including the Rhode Island Training School and the Juvenile Probation Division. Throughout his career, Larome has championed juvenile justice reform, equity, and inclusion, and has made significant contributions at the state and national levels. Larome, welcome to the show. I think you brought a friend with you here, John Scott, who's the Senior Community Development Training Specialist as well. John and Larome, welcome to you both.
Thank you, Stan. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got the phone of friends, so I said, John, you're it. My friend was unavailable, so I had to get John next.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's all right.
Yeah. Always bring a friend, right? Always have a tag along. Yeah, right. So, yeah, exactly. So for both of you, I guess, if you want to chime in, tell us about yourself. Why did you become interested in the juvenile justice arena? What aspects of your own story influenced you to want to be a part of this world?
Okay. Well, this is my 25th year doing this work. I started my career early in the 2000s, so it wasn't the 1900s, but it was the 2000s, like the early
this century.
2000s.
You made it in this century.
I did.
All right.
I started my career as a corrections officer, worked my way up in the adult system, went to adult parole, did that for many years. And then in 2014, I believe it was, I went to the youth system in Ohio, where I served as the parole supervisor. So I did that for about a year. And then after that year, I took an executive leadership course, and I was tapped to serve as the reentry administrator for the state. So I'm the bureau chief of reentry services, which was like one of my dream jobs. I remember seeing it, saying like, wow, if I could ever do a job, I want that job. And like half an hour later, I got a call. I was like, oh, wow, this how you think about this? But I ended up getting the job. I stuck with it. So I did that to 2018. And then right around 2016, 2015, between 2015 and 2017, I forgot the year, I remember when Tamir Rice was killed, in Ohio. And for those who don't know, I encourage you to look it up. Heartbreaking story, but a young man, I think he was 12 years old, was shot and gunned down by the police. and I was doing this work, and I talked to my supervisor at the time in the Ohio Department of Youth Services, and I told her, I said, I don't want to do this work no more. I'm gonna quit. And I was like, expecting her to say like, "Oh no, don't quit. You can't quit. We need you." You know, that kind of stuff you expect people to say. Like, how you gonna pay your bills? Any of that stuff. Her response was, "Okay, bye." And I was like, "Oh, you're not gonna like talk me out of this again?" So I said it again, like, "Hey, I'm about to quit. You're not gonna talk me out of this?" She was like, "No." I was like, "Okay." She was like, "Well, if you don't do the job's still gonna go on, but somebody else gonna do the work, and all that change you trying to effectuate, and all the hopes and dream that you have, you can kind of kiss it goodbye." And from that, obviously, we know the story, and that I stuck with it. And I applied for the job here in Rhode Island in 2018, and been serving this role ever since. It's been the greatest time of my life. Like the work is, it's hard, it's thankless, but I work with a great team of folks. I got really great supports, and I do it for the kids.
I'm interested to know about, you mentioned starting out as like a correctional officer, right?
Yes.
What were those days like? And was there anything that was sort of a transformative or like a light bulb moment for you when you were really in the facilities and stuff like that? Like, what was that like for you?
Oh, being a corrections officer, that was one of my most memorable jobs ever. I had just turned 20 and got the job as a correction officer. I didn't know what a correction officer did.
Yeah.
I just knew I got to wear a gun sometime. I had a uniform,
Yeah.
and I had pretty decent seniority, whatever that was. So I got the job
Seniority as a 20-year-old.
as a 20-year-old, yeah.
Yeah, let it go to your head much, right?
I was like,
Jeez.
whoa, I get to pick first? Like,
Yeah.
I get good days off? I didn't know what good days off or bad days off was, but I got it. But I was mentored by a lot of people as a young correction officer. I'll never forget, I was in a working a control center one day, and this guy named Jack, he was a country guy from Lima, Ohio, and he had been involved in a lot of situations and stuff like that. But he told me, he was like, "Junior, now whatever you do, you take care of your fellow brother and sister out there. I know you're a little guy, but you got 10,000 pounds coming behind you, so just don't be scared." But through hearing that taught me pretty much just always protect. I mean, you had to do the right thing. Had to protect folks and your brother or sister. Because I was a little guy. I was 20. I just turned 20, so it easily could have been scared because we were involved in other situations. But I also remember one other situation. A guy named Howard. I probably was like my second year there. This guy, we had to use of force on this guy, and I was taking the guy upstairs, and and in my head I was like, my adrenaline rush. I was like, well, we can do X, Y, and Z. And then Howard, and he was like, "Larome, you got to do the right thing." And I always remember him saying it. And not that I could do the wrong thing, but like some of those lessons still stick with me. People like, don't be scared and always do the right thing. Those are some of the lessons that stick with me. And as an officer, I always did the right thing. I was always big on reentry before it became a thing.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it. Ohio was one of the first states to adapt to reentry. And I took a liking to it. Like, hey, this is like what I want to do. So I would always talk to the guys about what they're going to do when they get out, their future plans. Because I was trained, again, in the 2000s by people from the 1900s who trained me. People started back in the 1900s. They trained me. They were like, hey, you don't talk to the guys in there like that. They got social workers, the case managers. They do that. You just focus on security. But I was never too worried about
those
losing my
mentors
job.
are so important in this line of work. You're not born knowing how to do this type of work. You need people who've been in it for a while, and to constantly remind you, what you're here for.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to forget.
It sounds like you learned a lot of, valuable personal lessons for yourself and about yourself maybe, or things that you wanted to take with you. But what did you learn about the population, and has some of that stuff stuck with you up till now?
I did, because my first job was in a prison in Toledo, Ohio, where I'm from. I think many people here know I'm from Toledo, Ohio by now. But it was right down the street from maybe once or twice. But it was right down the street from where I grew up. So people in there, people there knew my mom. To my mother's friend, my mother's brother was in a prison. Some people I went to school with, and some people I knew the names of growing up who were in the street doing stuff. But when I got there, I was like, wow, these are just regular people. Like, I was just enjoyed talking to folks. Obviously, people from my community. Obviously, people who look like me. Obviously, people who did. It was some pretty good people in there, some good talented people in there, and there's some other folks in there too. But through doing that, I realized like these are just people who just did something. Some stuff pretty more serious, and some stuff wasn't, but they need a chance. Like, why would And I was taught that the punishment is being taken here. The punishment, our job is not to punish them while they're in there. So I took that role. Like my job isn't to punish. The punishment was being removed from your community. And our job was to put out somebody better, put out a better product, be an example, be a leader, be a sounding board, whatever you need to be for the person or the people who are under your supervision at that time, whether they're in prison, whether they're on parole, whether they're students in the school.
Do you mention that some of the stuff from the Casey Foundation, right? That most of the youth don't pose any threat to public safety. Do you both agree with that? Like, it's because it sounds like maybe from your experiences, it's just caught in the wrong situation or whatever that might, there's a lot of reasons, that kind of factors that go into it, but there really isn't any threat to public safety, or that the I don't know if you agree with it or not, or that's too controversial a question.
No, it's not a controversial question. It's different because a lot of people, like I try to not like sensationalize things, because we do have some youth in there who like, okay, what's this kid here for? But then we have some youth in there like, wow, I see why this kid's in here.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm not one to second guess what the courts or what the police officer did to bring the kid in there. Our job and responsibility when the kid's in our custody and care and supervision is to make sure kids get everything that they need to go back home and be safe.
Right.
That's pretty much my main priority,
right.
is to serve the kids. But also on the same token, when kids get out, make sure they still get those services they need.
Yeah.
And also when kids before coming in. So we try to focus out on prevention services as well to prevent kids from coming here. Because the one thing about kids, kids gonna be kids. We were all there once. Sometimes we get older, we forget about it.
Yeah.
But we did things that we probably shouldn't have done.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't want to know. Right? Like our job is to work with that young person and help rehabilitate.
Yeah.
Get that young person better prepared to be successful in the community when they transition out. Mm-hmm. So what brought you here? I mean, but for some serious situations, it's probably better not to know. You don't want your implicit biases to come out. You want to be present. You want to be your best self every day you walk through the door, and you give it 100%.
Yeah.
And we have staff who knows, like their job, certain staff, their roles is to know. Like maybe unit manager, let's say, maybe the social worker. Their job is to know. But we want to broadcast what every single kid did and have everybody read the kid's file. The one thing we don't want to do is judge a young person by the worst thing that they ever did at that time.
Right.
And so that's my stuff. Like, look at this kid as a whole.
Yeah.
And look at where he or she is. Look at the potential. I mean, I can think when I was a kid, I was in the second grade. I'll never forget, at King School. I had the lunch tray walking through the lunch line. And I didn't even like school lunch. But I stole the orange. I grabbed the orange juice, had my tray, grabbed the orange juice, put it under my shirt, walked out. The next day, I took 2 of them. The next day, I did it again, and the lady grabbed me. She was like, hey, don't you ever do that again. And sometimes that's all it takes. But not for whatever the case may be. Say she would have called the police and did stuff. I could have been in there too for something simple as stealing the orange juice.
Right.
So sometimes kids just in there just for stealing orange juice, and sometimes you have the other stuff in there. But I just think like that community wrapped itself around me, like what the lunch lady did. I don't remember her name, but it was at King School. It was probably 90 or 80 something in the 1900s.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine maybe Holly, you could relate too, on our the more family serving side of things. A lot of the similarities is almost like it's not that it's not relevant that what that family or parent or youth did. It's just that it shouldn't be the focus. It shouldn't be the focus of, that, like you said, that I really like the one day shouldn't define you, or the worst day or whatever, right? So try to mitigate some of that bias. Like some people have to know, but it's almost better in a way. The less you know, the better. And not that it's not relevant, but
no, and there's cases that are relevant. There are cases that are relevant that you really need to know why this person is here.
Sure.
But for the most part, like, you want to be able to work with that young person where they are, not where you think they've been. And like, that's not my role. My role is to teach you something, to provide life skills, provide opportunities for you to build a stronger bridge back to the community.
Right.
You've caused some type of harm in the community.
Sure.
And you might want to make amends for that and provide opportunities for them to see themselves in a positive light.
Yeah. Go buy some extra orange juice Or boxes.
I just want to, for the record, we don't have anybody at the training school for stealing orange juice.
I would have been first.
For the record, I want to be clear.
Yeah. Write a nice thank you, like with a picture of an orange juice card on it, something like that.
Yeah, and it's great. It just makes me think of, too, on the other side of it, with, why a family became involved with DCYF, right? And of course, that is important with why they became involved with us, but we also need to look at what's going on with the family, why are they here, what's going on with the kids, what's going on with the parents, and just really looking at them as the whole and, what changes can be made, what supports do they have, right? Similar as to what you guys do over there.
And, Holly touches on a great point. At home, Mom may have a very difficult time getting Johnny to clean his bedroom.
Yeah.
When Johnny comes to the training school, I can get Johnny to do almost anything. So maybe there's techniques that we're using inside of our facility that may help the family when Johnny comes home and keep that normalcy for Johnny when he gets out.
Right. I think this is a nice segue into one of our other questions here, is just sort of like for both the general population and for those that are working in child welfare, some of your colleagues that maybe you don't interact with regularly, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about juvenile justice, both in Rhode Island and maybe on a more national scale of having different experiences in different states and that sort of thing? So what are some of the biggest misconceptions about the youth or just the system in general that you want to try to debunk?
So I provide a lot of tours at the training schools. Larome, I say part of Larome's legacy will be that he's opened the doors to the training school, to the community. He's done a great job at this. These are not the training school's kids. These are the community's kids, and the community should be a part of that rehabilitative process. Mm-hmm. So Larome has opened the doors, and when it's time for a tour, I'm usually the guy that does that. I'm the self-proclaimed historian of the training school. I love the history of our facility and where we've been throughout from the 1800s. And I lead the tour.
When Larome started.
That's basically when Larome started.
That was when Brian Terry started.
Yeah, exactly. But I usually start the tour that people come to the training school. It's behind a wall. It's off the highway. Nobody really knows what happens there. And I usually start out by saying you walked in with a preconceived notion of what you're about to see.
Right. When
you leave, I promise that it's going to be different.
Right.
When you come to the training school, you don't know that students go to school every day.
Yeah.
We're our own school district.
Mm-hmm.
There's tremendous credit recovery. We have goats. We work on historical projects inside of the facility that the community is reaching out to juvenile corrections in Rhode Island to help find loved ones that were buried on these historical cemeteries on our property. So I think that when the community comes in, they leave with impressed with the amount of work that goes on inside of a facility like the training school. Okay. Now, do I wish those services could be provided somewhere else other than a juvenile correctional facility? Yes, but I also don't want to throw away a generation of kids that do find themselves in a place like that.
Sure. Yeah.
Dang, I can't compete with that. That was real good. But all I would add to that, obviously everything that John said, he said a lot better than I'm going to say it. I'll just be brief. I'll just say a lot of people think that and juvenile justice across the country, people think all we do is warehouse and compliance monitor. They think in the facility we warehouse kids, in the community we just compliance monitor. Well, that's the complete opposite of that. Our staff gets so much training. Our staff have so much, it's so many that even the credentials to even work with youth is so much different. The rights that the kids have, the services, because I came from the adult system. So initially I thought it was a carbon copy I thought the youth system was a carbon copy of the adult system. I was grossly mistaken. And when I got there, I was like, you got to talk to parents. You got to give kids snacks. You got to know their allergies. It was just stuff like a lot of people, they got a school in there. They got to go to school. Yeah. Oh my God, they like school. And they're getting good grades in school. A lot of people don't realize that. Or in the community, people think like, kid do something, we want to lock them up. Like that's the furthest from what we do.
Right.
We're spending time with kids. We get them connected with our different supports. Our probation staff, our supports. You name it, they can call anybody. Even a director at DCYF, they can call for help. You name it, is there. And then one of the unique things about the Rhode Island community is that with the size of it, everybody's connected. So there's not many youth who can't ask for some help. We had a youth who was working with Jay and John inside the training school. You talk about that story, the youth that got the job with Jay's brother.
Oh, the S. Yeah. So he had an interest in being an electrician. So he was one of our farm hands on the property and a heck of a worker. You could rely on him. He was a trustworthy kid. He was in for a very serious incident. It was involuntary, so it was an accident, but he was there for a very serious incident. And this young man made major leaps and bounds. And by the end of his career, he helped us at the Christmas when we deliver the holiday gift campaign that DCYF is involved in. He was one of the young men that was helping us deliver gifts to all the kids in foster care throughout the state of Rhode Island. And when he got out, he had an interest in being an electrician. So we helped him get enrolled in CCRI, started working with their program, and gave him the opportunity to work alongside electricians in the community to further develop that skill on a professional level. And like Larome says, they're just kids. They're young men and women who are there for a reason, and it's our job to help them be better when they leave.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I really like one of the things you said about, like there is a physical wall, right? There is a building, there is a structure, but I feel like you're trying as much as you can to eliminate the metaphorical walls and build some of the transparency and have the relationship between the facility and what you all do and the community.
Yeah.
Because sometimes those barriers and those walls are unavoidable. They're physical things, and it's hard to kind of, like you said, beyond the wall and that kind of thing. Like it's hard for people to see through that and realize, oh yeah, I didn't even know that happened there. But it takes that much more effort, I guess, to be able to bring some of that transparency to the community.
And it's a philosophy. Like we've been doing a lot of progressive things at the Rhode Island Training School for years. We were one of the first states to have a reform school. So we've been doing a lot of great things inside of the training school. The question is what type of lens do you look through as a leader?
Yeah.
Are we looking through a lens that we need to keep the community safe, and this is where individuals come to do that? Or do you have the philosophy where, no, this is an extension of the community, and the community should be involved in that? Because Johnny's going back to Providence.
Yeah.
And if Providence doesn't have some involvement working with Johnny, he's not going to be received well when he goes back.
Do you find like it's always kind of running an uphill battle with the community, or do you feel like they're coming along? They're coming along, and they're
We get outreach so much. We get outreach on a day in and day out about people wanting to do different things for the youth, which is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Because I've been somebody worked in corrections 25 years. When I first started, we used to screen everybody out. We say, no, you can't come in. Security concerns. Well, when I assumed this role, I wanted to not have that. Like we're never gonna shun the community away, because we want to expose the kids to as many pro-social things and people as we can. Because one stat I use two stats, but I'll go with one right now. 100% of the kids inside the Rhode Island Training School are leaving. 100% of the kids are leaving. And they're all most of them are coming back to a community near you. So why not get the community involved right now?
Right. Yeah.
Well, because if a kid is doing something, now it's our problem. Now we can address it.
Right.
Otherwise, if I don't and just sit in a silo behind the walls, it's the training school issues. And
it's a key to success.
Problem.
It's a key to success for a lot of the kids too, because if you don't start that relationship building with the community while they're in the facility, while we have a little bit more, I don't want to say control because it's a harsh word, but we have a little bit more influence on the behavior of that youth when they're inside of the facility. That's a great way to begin to transition them back into the community. But that relationship with that community partner should start while they're with us.
Right.
Not wait until the hopes that Johnny's going to walk through your front door when he hasn't really met you yet. It's really important to do that, building relationships prior to their release.
Yeah, and if you already have those preconceived notions in your head too, and those biases, those aren't going to be changed if you don't have those relationships built and some of those partnerships built, right? So what are some of the other specific things you want people to know about that you're excited about you partnering with the community on?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of projects. I'm always
Right.
hearing about things, and I'm always amazed when I see stuff. I'm like, oh, wow, they're doing that now? So, how can people become involved in that?
One of your neighbors right around the corner, Farm Fresh Rhode Island.
Yeah.
We've had a partnership with Farm Fresh Rhode Island since 2009.
Okay.
We launched a project out of the training school called the Harvest Kitchen Project. They have a full kitchen in the community. They have a commercial kitchen inside of Farm Fresh Rhode Island's headquarters. They've been a partner since 2009. They employ our youth. We have a 20-week training program, and all of that was born out of our facility. Out of our facility and a conversation with a community partner. AS220 has been at the training school for 30-something years. Umberto Crenca had a vision to create a youth arts program, and when you are an adult artist, an adult accomplished artist, the idea of having a youth arts program inside of your space is not an easy sell, but someone with a vision really paved the way for that to happen, and that's been a 30-plus year relationship with AS220.
I don't know if Bert remembers me or not, but I was at AS220 in the AmeriCorps program many years ago. But I think that those are so great because it helps give people. I work at a fatherhood support program, and I was an employment specialist there. So I tried to connect dads to employment opportunities. And I think that that's so key because it just helps with a sense of purpose.
Yes.
And to be able to do something that you're really interested in too, like art or culinary work or whatever, that makes all the difference too, because now you're excited about going and doing that program or getting that job or whatever the case might be. It's not just a job, it's a vocation. It's something that you're really passionate and interested in. It gives people, adult or youth, it gives you a sense of purpose. I think those programs are so key. I always was trying to get dads to do a training program rather than just find a job, because if a job is just a job.
The job is not the next step for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's really learning how to work in a caring and supportive environment with caring and supportive adults. Right. So to give you that running room to learn how to work. Sometimes a job coming out of a facility like ours isn't your next successful step. So I think that those smaller programs in the community are really important for a specialized population like that we work with.
John, can you also touch on our urban garden project and our Boston Globe?
Yes, I would.
Cemetery project and stuff.
I'd love that.
Because what John was talking about earlier, some of the stuff that's been around 20, 30, 40 years ago, but we have some stuff that's been around 6, 7 years ago, and even a year or two ago.
And a year or two ago.
So for the music program to talk about rock stars.
Yep. So let's talk about the cemetery project. So in the 1800s, there was an idea to centralize state services. Prior to that, services were provided by cities and towns. They bought 3 farms in Cranston. It's where the Department of Corrections is, the State Hospital, Juvenile Corrections. That became the hub for state services in Rhode Island. It was chosen for that location because of 2 railroads that intersected so loved ones can come and visit their family members on this complex. If you happen to pass away while in the care and custody of one of those state agencies, and you didn't have someone to bury you, you were buried in what they called a pauper's grave. Pauper's grave was a number on a stone slab. One of those, the annex of the the first cemetery for the state is right behind the training school. It was overgrown by weeds and trees, and you couldn't even see it. Now we've kind of adopted that cemetery with the help of the community and with the help of our sister state agencies on the Howard complex. We've cleaned up the cemetery, and the Boston Globe came out and did a story on it.
Nice.
Then we get a phone call from Ancestry.com, and they were like, we want to be a part of that. We want to be a part of that. The Secretary of State's office got involved, and together we've begun to identify individuals under those grave sites. The kids at the training school have written obituaries for every person that we have been able to identify. They've begun that process. And you want to talk about healing. And I talk to the kids about this all the time. Like, at the end of our day, at the end of days for us, we're going to be remembered for something. And you kids are working on a project that might be that thing that you're remembered for. And I'm getting calls every week John, I heard you're working on this project. Can you check to see if I had a loved one that was in state care? Can you see if they were buried on the? So it's a rewarding process for the kids, but it's also an important piece for the community, and our kids are doing it.
Yeah.
It's a sense of purpose. The Urban Garden Project, back in the 1800s, we had the state farm, and kids were working on the state farm. So if you went to the training school, if you didn't grow it, you didn't eat it. So we started this project more as paying tribute to where we came from. And we wanted to build an outdoor classroom. If you went to a very good private school in our state, you would be going out to the pond to learn about various topics in science. But we didn't have that. Our kids had a science class, and when you're in class, you're going to do what you do when you're in class. Yeah. So we built an outdoor classroom. We have over the square footage will be a little tricky for me, but we have 11 50-foot long flower beds. We have a 1,600 square foot garlic bed. We have about 65 animals on the property at this point in time. Ducks, chickens, goats.
Right.
And the kids take care of it every day.
Right.
And it's like it's big enough that you're working on a farm.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about how many kids don't have, access to something like that even, and just to know where their food comes from and to take care of their own food. And
Great story.
Yeah.
Kids, where do tomatoes come from? Well, they come from the can in the market.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or when we have a kid from the Dominican Republic, we have young kids from the Dominican Republic. Mm. When we take them outside, they know everything about a chicken.
Yeah.
For one of our white students, that chicken could be a pterodactyl. They've never seen either one of them.
Prehistoric. Yeah. And the cemetery project too, I think it's like that person might be sort of long gone, right? But it helps bring dignity back to their life, because I feel like, like you said, they were just a number, which is so
they were just
kind of sad, and right, like it's more than kind of sad, but like helps bring back dignity back to them and to the community and to their loved ones.
It's actually the name of the project. They were more than just a number.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You should hire me to
come
up with this.
You start tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
In your mind, has the nature of juvenile rehabilitation evolved over the last 10 to 15 years? And have major cultural, societal events such as COVID and the BLM movement contributed at all to an evolution?
Yes. Did I say yes already?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So yes. So you can think about, when I first started 25 years ago, we can go back to when John started 33 years ago, we had exponentially a lot more kids in our system. And just in our youth system alone, not including the adult system. The crimes were from delinquency crimes, truancy, stuff that wasn't crimes. It was just kids doing stuff. We had kids laying in double bunked in rooms, laying on cots on the floor and stuff like that. So just the number of kids that were there, about 20 something years ago, which is a lot. Probably about the last 15-ish, I would say, is when the tide started changing.
Yeah.
When folks start becoming more cognizant of adolescent behavior, when we realized we couldn't build our way out of crime, and when we realized crime was again touching our kids.
Yeah.
Because crime's always touched kids who look like me, kids of color. But then when you start arresting white kids and kids of influence, who have influence or have popular last names, that's when people get involved. Like, oh, it ain't just them anymore, it's us.
Yeah.
Because again, eventually you'll run out of people. And so that's when the tide started. That's when I noticed the tide started changing. And we said we need to do a lot more. We need to stop treating these kids as adults. We need to hold kids accountable still. And we still need to, and they start understanding that kids are 100% of our future. And they may be 6 to 12% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. So we're raising a future of people who we want to go into to a system, whether a prison system, a jail system, a welfare system, some kind of adverse system, or do we want people to take care of us? And, hopefully most of us realize, like, we need plumbers in this world. We need mechanics in this world. We need physicians in this world. We need podcast people in this world. We need people to take care of us, because at least when I last checked, although I sometimes stress the truth and say I'm 22, I'm not. I'm getting older. So the older I get, I need more young people to take care of me. And I want those young people to come from positive, to not necessarily have been in the system their entire life, but to just be successful and enjoying what they do. But we have seen it. And if we want to go to even, let's start with COVID first. COVID changed the way we did stuff overnight. I remember we're coming. If you ever would have told me, I would have bet every single paycheck that I've ever had that I never in my life would have intentionally handed a kid my cell phone and said, FaceTime your family while inside the facility. Well, one of the hardest decisions we ever had to make was to stop visitation during COVID. When COVID first happened, there were a lot of recommendations and reports saying like, hey, because we believe family visitation is paramount in the kids' rehabilitation. And to say like we're going to stop that, that's against everything I believed. And I'm like, well, I'm no longer Larome by saying you can't allow visitation. So I'm like, what can I do? So I'm like, you know what? We got these cell phones. Let's get a kid a cell. FaceTime your mama. FaceTime your cousin. FaceTime somebody. Yeah. And they were doing it. So that changed. It taught us pretty much how to think outside the box. And why are we always doing stuff that was so antiquated? That's one of the many things. And we had to keep doing the right thing. And then we move on. You talked about the BLM movement. Yeah, I think that was although that was just a moment, it wasn't really the movement I was hoping it was. But well, it was it's a movement for me. But it was a moment for some. But during that moment, we capitalized off of it because then folks had been more intentional about looking at race equity and how disproportionality is in the system. And from that national level, I was able to tout that message and say, hey, look at the disproportionalities. What are we going to do about this? Right. Because I always ask people, and the guy quoted Joe Madison earlier, I quote him again, he would always ask a question, do you know the difference between a moment and a movement? It's a sacrifice. Mm. And that's why I say the race equity piece and DEI, that stuff was just a moment for people. Because they were like, okay, and then when the tide shifted, everybody backed off. But for people like me and people who do this work, a lot of people in this state, a lot of people nationally, it's a movement for us to talk about this work. Like, I'm not going to stop talking about it until the day. So thank you for giving me this platform to talk about the disproportionalities in the system, especially as a black man in this world. A lot of kids, not just Rhode Island, but nationally, look like me. Disproportionately make up the system. So when I walk into a housing unit and kids see me and they say, hey, Dr. Myrick, you a doctor? Or they'll see me, but they look at me like, hold on. I used to look a lot younger before I got this job. I'm aging like the president now.
Before and after photo.
Yes. You should have saw me before. I was a young, good-looking dude. Now I'm just got gray hair and and a big belly. But thank God we're on a podcast.
Audio only.
Audio only. Yeah. No visuals here, right?
That does kind of, go ahead.
I'd like to add a little bit about that because I think that COVID, a lot of folks don't know that while the world shut down, the training schools kept going. Yeah. And our students at the training school during COVID provided lunch and dinner 7 days a week to the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency for the workers that were there around the clock, 24 hours a day. Our kids in our culinary class, a colleague and I, we oversaw that project, and our kids made lunch and dinner every single day. Yeah. I also want to touch upon, originally we were talking about mentors. And when I first started at the
Hold on, before you go there,
yep.
I want you to finish that story. Talk about the young man who did a senior project around that.
Yep. He did a senior project around the dining project. I believe he got student of the year at the training school.
This is during COVID when they were cooking for EMA.
Yeah.
He got a presidential scholarship to Johnson & Wales, and he wrote. Yeah. He was a great orator. He was a character. So he was a salesman. Yeah. So he sold himself and got a presidential scholarship to Johnson & Wales. Smart kid.
Yeah, amazing.
And going back to, I grew up in the inner city of Providence. I grew up in the Federal Hill section, a very ethnocentric community. When I was hired at the training school, I was 22 years old. I almost didn't make it. And a very prominent black man at the time, it was Roosevelt Benton, important person in my life, came to me during my probation and said, I don't think you're going to make it. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I said, what do you suggest? He goes, well, you're having a problem communicating with black kids. And I said, well, what do you recommend? He said, I recommend that you take a cultural diversity class, like, you better go now.
Yesterday. Yeah.
So I had a lot of respect for him. So I took a class at Roger Williams University. I had a high school diploma when I got hired, and I got a good grade. And I thought to myself, if I could get a good grade in cultural diversity, maybe I can get a good grade in math. So I took another class. And because of a conversation with a black man, when I got my bachelor's degree, went to law school, got my master's degree, and it was because of a conversation with Roosevelt Bannon.
It's almost the opposite conversation that Larome had with his mentor. That he was trying to get you out. Larome's mentor was taking a more passive approach. He was like actively trying to be like, "You're not going to make it.
You're not going to make it.
I'm going to prove you wrong," kind of thing. Which is always a kind of a motivator for me. Anytime that somebody says like, "You're not cut out for this," because I've had a similar experience like that once or twice too, where somebody says that to me, and I said, "Oh, sure."
He knew where I was from, so he knew I would take that as a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, John, sorry to trauma dump on you all today. So this is Larome and John's therapy hour, so we appreciate this.
I'm not going to bill for this, am I?
Right? You got insurance.
All right.
Yeah. See if we can get a sponsor or something like that. Something like that. Is there anything you touched on the racial disproportionality, but is there anything that you want to touch on that you're doing currently? Because we know it's well documented. We know it still exists. Is there anything that you want to sort of let folks know about that you're doing to try to address disproportionality?
Yeah, we're not going anywhere. As long as disproportionalities are there, we're going to continue to examine them. We're going to continue to address them, because again, it's never a kid's fault that they're involved in our systems. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to overly represent some kids in there, we're going to try to do everything that we can to get them the service they need, so that there is no representation in there, especially over-representation. Our job is to make sure that every single kid gets every single thing they need every single time. And when you're excluding a certain population, again, whether it's race, ethnicity, generation, LGBTQ status, whatever it is, then it's up to us as the adults and as the professionals. And actually, we get paid to do this. Sometimes people forget we get paid to do this. And there's an expectation that we're going to treat the kids right, that we're going to do the right thing by kids. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't get paid a lot. It's more of a calling. But accepting this calling, accepting this paycheck, accepting going to work every single day, we're to give it off for every single kid. So when we see any group that's being excluded, it's up to us to be unapologetically, screaming off the top shelf, like, hey, this group is being impacted. Mm. And in our case, especially in the juvenile justice system, Rhode Island and across the world, well, not across the world maybe, but at least in the U.S., it's kids of color which are being disproportionately impacted by systems, period. Mm. And not to call out a system, it's all the system doing what they're designed to do. So it's up to us to do what we know is the right thing. Again, we're fortunate to be in a state where we don't have to hide the work that we're doing, and that we can call stuff out, and that we're actively, aggressively targeting. I mean, there's so many programs. I won't name names on here because I don't think they're, I don't want to say the wrong name, but we have programs geared at different ethnicities and races and whatever groups that we need to target, and we're just being real intentional about it.
And as far as workforces go, we're one of the most diverse workforces in the state, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't use this platform to say, we're hiring, and we're hiring people that look like the young people that reside in our facility. And that's really important. We talked about, post-COVID, it's very difficult to recruit people in the people helping people business.
Right.
Police departments, correctional facilities, group homes, medical. It's hard to get people into our line of work, and it has been a rewarding career for me and
for myself as well. Yeah, and in addition to what John was saying, when we recruit, we don't just recruit from put stuff online for those who are online. We do that too, but our recruiting is so diverse. I mean, we go into churches, we're going to a synagogue, we're going to a barbershop, we go to people I meet at
farmers market,
people I meet at the grocery store. Yeah. I met people in a barbershop, like, hey, you doing this? We want to go to where the people are, like, hey, we need you here. And we don't want a group of just one people. We want everybody. We want to be as diverse as we can. At one point, I haven't checked the number recently, but we had 10 languages spoken by staff inside the training school. Now Orlando speaks about 9 of them by itself, but we have 10 languages spoken by staff.
Yeah.
In the event that we can't do things, we also make sure that we have interpreters coming in should we need that.
Yeah.
But we're real intentional about making sure that every kid gets that culturally competent, relevant services that they need.
Right.
You know, and your audience is, you know, everyone's going down a path in their life and trying to, you know, getting into this line of work. We have very important work. I hear people in their interview process talking about, you know, how I want to make a difference in a kid's life, and that's great. This is a job where you can make a difference in a kid's life. So you really have to mean it.
Right.
Because you never know when that sentence you're going to utter is going to flip the light switch on for that kid and change the course of his life. So or her
Similar
life.
to the stories that you said, both of you, right? Someone just said a sentence to you.
A sentence.
And that was it. And it stuck with you all these years. So
I will agree
same
with
thing
that.
for the kids in the training school,
Yeah,
right?
it is. And that's why I do the work.
Yeah. And it sounds like, too, you're looking for people that are willing to run the race and keep running it and fight the good fight. That's what it sounds like, too, at the end of the day.
Because
Gotta have some stamina.
You definitely have to have
it ain't for the weak. I don't mean like
Resistance.
Right.
Yeah, you need to be in it to win it.
That's right.
Because kids have a lot of energy. The young people we serve, they have a lot, and they're kids, and that's the important thing to remember. Yeah, they were arrested, went to court, and got sentenced. Okay, yeah, but the grand scheme of it, they're still kids, so they do kid stuff. They gonna tease you, they gonna cry, they gonna get moody, they gonna laugh, they gonna have fun. They gonna do everything a kid is supposed to do. All the stuff that we all did. But the thing is, 100% of the kids also, not be a Debbie Downer, come in our facility with trauma. And that's one thing to realize. So it's important for us to realize that, hey, these kids are coming, one, they're kids, one, they're young, one, they're brain adolescent, not fully developed, but also they're coming in with trauma. And so how are we going to do our part to help them and to pretty much to help them? And realize our staff have trauma too. You know, we all have some kind of trauma. And we're cognizant of the fact that hurt people. So how do we, you look at the 4 R's of trauma, the fourth one is how do we resist re-traumatization of people? So when we're looking for folks who are like, hey, if you're dealing with trauma, you're dealing with stuff, you know, come talk to us, let us work together, you know, because we understand people are people.
And we talk ad nauseum in the academy. So any new staff gets 320 hours of training before they even work on a line. And vicarious trauma is one of the topics we spend a lot of time on because, you know, it's some days it's a heavy lift.
Yeah.
We're also doing some trauma training with FSRI, I believe, and we have EQ too, which is a national thing that a lot of folks are using.
Well, and you said, you know, being a Debbie Downer, I don't think it's being that, I think it's being real, right? Like this work is going to affect you. So it's better to know that up front ahead of time before you get
It's not made for everyone.
It's not for everyone. And it's just being real. It's just that we all coming with our own traumas and baggage too.
Yeah.
So a final question, and I think this is really kind of to tie into other DCYF employees, the social caseworker, the investigator, the resource family worker. What do they and others need to know about like dual system crossover youth that are interacting with both sides of things, whether it's the juvenile justice system, but also maybe their families also has an open FSU case or investigation or something like that? What do they need to know about some of these youth that are like these quote unquote crossover dual system youths?
I think John said earlier when you were talking about that, but pretty much they're all kids, like regardless of what they were in for. Like don't get so focused on what they're in there for. Like, oh my God, this is a juvenile justice kid too. What did he do? Let me do it. Let me be overly scared of him, or I got to overly police him or something like, or her. You know, it's like, don't worry about what they did. Like that again, that's the worst thing they did in their life at that point. And that they're kids. You know, they still smile the same. They still believe in Santa Claus. They still believe in Easter Bunny. They still want a piece of cake for their birthday. They still want to walk across the stage. And
graduation. Yeah.
Yeah, these are still kids.
But the communication, right? So I've been with the department for 33 years. If I walk into the Friendship Street office, there's a handful of people that are going to be able to identify me. I don't even get past security when I come to DCYF. So communication collaboration.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of words that you hear about in every leadership meeting,
Mm-hmm.
but you hear about it in every leadership meeting. So that means we're not really communicating and collaborating as well as we could.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for dual involved kids, I think that's critically important because, the FSU side of our department has a skill set that's very different than what my skill set might be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they're both important because this young person is involved on both sides,
Yeah.
in both sides. So I think we need to communicate more
Mm-hmm.
and maybe be a little bit more open to one another. Like, coming into the facility, spending a little bit more time with us inside of our facility. I think that would help.
Yeah. Ask for you as the tour guide.
You
Definitely.
need John as tour guide. And don't label the kids.
Yeah.
A lot of times you hear people talk about, when I was growing up, my parents took me back and said, you can go to the bad boys school.
Mm-hmm.
Like we
Yeah.
gotta be we gotta be careful of the labels that we put on people because people live up to labels. So that's why whenever I when I label somebody, I was like, "What's up, young man? What's up, fella? What's up, scholar?" Talk to them positive. Or your young lady. When my daughters were babies, their mom would always yell to them. She would be like, "Hey, ladies." I just thought that was so funny. But we wanted them to grow up as ladies, young women, and just we don't want you to be whatever you heard in a rap video or a movie or your friends on the street said or other kids called you. Other people called you. Like you're all that. I tell my daughter like, "Hey, you're Myrick." You know how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like that has, and I want that to be with the kids. Like the kids we serve. Like don't label the kids. Like don't say like, "Oh, you're a training school kid. You're a probation kid." No, they're not.
You got to model. You got to model the behavior you want to see. I like to refer to them as Mr. and Ms. and
So help them identify with something positive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We have to increase those opportunities to be positive and be more pro-social.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Growing up in Rhode Island, exactly what you said, the bad boy school, the bad girl school, that was the threats in my community if you were being bad. And there would even be the fake phone call to the neighbor pretending they were calling the school. So things were very different then, even with what was in the school. And I just, commend you both for the transformations that have gone on, since you've been there, the things that you're still working on. It's not a bad boy school anymore, right? You've just made such progress.
Thank you.
And it's our team as well. I wish I could say like when I got here 7 years ago, like I completely changed everything around and made it for the better. They were already in the path before me, I can lie. But we're still going. And then support up to DCYF leadership too. The director Decker, Brandy, Misty, and everybody between allowing to just do what we want to do. So between the team of people we have working with us who are there right now, allow me and John to come do this stuff. Whether on the probation side or facility side or people in central office at DCYF or people working the line right now, we couldn't do it. And then obviously you are allowing us to just come sit in this space and share a little bit about what we do.
Give us a voice, yeah.
It was great. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.